Okay, turn to page 48 in the small book. This is going to be the demonstration for the 3D solids. It's a very long demonstration. Disregard everything at the top and just jump down to the bottom where the blue step 2 is. Type units and enter, and you can see that they want architectural units. So I'll get that right here. And OK. They do have, oh, should be set to inches. Sorry about that. Let me go back in there. There was a little warning. Yeah, it says millimeters. Let's get that on inches. Okay. They do have some limits. 0, 0 for the first corner, and then 11, 8.5. Okay, so limits, I'll type the word limits. Enter 0, 0 for the first corner, and 11, 8.5 for the other corner. And then be sure to do an extents over here, or a Z enter, A enter for zoom all. Okay. Don't be concerned with step 4, grid display. You don't have to do that. You can turn the grid on if you want to. It's already set at a 1/2 inch. When it comes to making the layers, you really only need one layer because I don't think they have you change to any of the other layers. So 3DM, which is going to be magenta. And that'll be fine. If all your 3D shapes are on that layer, it'll be just fine. So step 9 at the top of page 49, it says to type viewports and select 2 vertical viewports. Viewports, enter, 2 vertical. So you will have 2 viewports here. And one of them is going to be set at southeast isometric up here in the corner. If you get close to the corner, little words show up. Okay. So this one is your views, and it's where you would find SE isometric. Okay. The other little word up here is your visual styles, and you can make the viewport on this side conceptual. The viewport over here, whoops, I have to click to make it active. Just leave it at top and wireframe. Okay. Steps 11 and 12, just type the word out, facet res, for facet resolution, FACETRES. Enter. And then 4 and enter. Okay. Then type ISO lines and enter, and then 20 and enter. Lines, enter, 20, enter. Okay. Now we can start the drawing. Before we do, what we are drawing or modeling are 3D solids. So we will need to select this little gear down here at the bottom, or the arrow next to it. So these are down here on the status bar. Okay. You want to bring up the 3D modeling ribbon so you'll have the tools you need available. Okay, so I have a completely different ribbon up here now. Go to the 3D modeling workspace and you'll have 3D tools up here. These right here are called your 3D primitives. These are some of your 3D modifying commands: extruding, lofting, revolving, sweeping. And right here, these 3 right here, these are your Boolean editing commands. They allow you to take some of these solid shapes and union them together, subtract them from one another, or use intersect to find the common parts between a couple profiles. You'll be using all three of those. Do a save as and name this drawing your three initials and 3D shapes. Okay, so save as TJH 3D shapes. Great. Getting started. You'll want to be on that 3DM layer and probably start over here in the one that's set up in an isometric view. Whichever view you click on will have the blue outline, and that will be the active view. Okay, to get to my layers, here's my layer dialog box, and here's layer 0, so let's get 3DM. There we are. Okay. Down at the bottom, the blue step 3 on page 49 says draw a solid box 1 1/4 by 3/4 by 1/2. So that just tells you what you're going to do. Okay. Then you have those two columns, prompt and response. The prompt column shows you what the command line is going to say, and the response column is what you will do when the command line says, you know, whatever the prompt line says to create the box. So the command, the prompt says command, your response is to select box. Okay, box, okay. And then, you know, it's asking for first corner, and you are going to type 1/2 inch, 7.5 inches, and enter. Okay. You can do 0.5 if you want to. 0.5, 7.5. Enter. Okay, so that started my box, the base of the box anyhow. Okay. Then type @1, actually @1 1/4, 3/4. Okay. @1.25, 0.75. Okay, what I just got there was the size of the base. Now I have to make sure that I am dragging upward, not down, upward when I type in the height. Type in 1/2 inch for the height, 1/2 or 0.5, and enter. Okay, there's your first piece. Okay. Let's see, if I turn the grid on, well, the grid things are so far apart that it hardly shows. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the wedge. Which is where? All the way down at the bottom of page 50. Actually, I missed the sphere. Page 50, the sphere is in the middle of the page. Select the sphere from your 3D primitives. Your starting point will be 2 3/4, 7. Okay, 2.75, 7 and 1/2. 2 3/4. No, 2 3/4, 7 3/4. I'm on the wrong thing. Okay, 2 3/4, 7 3/4. Okay, all right. 2 3/4, 7 3/4. Enter, and the radius is 3/8 of an inch. And enter. I was jumping all the way down to the wedge already. Okay, now we're ready. We can move on to the wedge. Okay. Starting point of the wedge is at the top of the next page, so it must be at the top of 51. 3 3/4, 7 1/2. Okay. Let's get the wedge right here. 3 3/4, 7 1/2. Okay, so that starts my wedge. and then at 1 1/4, 3/4. At 1.25, 0.75. Okay, so that gave me the base of the wedge, just like the box. Just like the box also, make sure you are dragging upward, not downward, when you type in 1/2 for the height. They go kind of fast at the beginning, but they get kind of tricky later on. Cone. Okay. Let's get the cone here. Starts at 1.25, 6.5. Has a radius of 3/8. 3/8 and enter. And again, make sure you're pulling upward instead of downward for the height, and this one is 3/4. Cylinder. Okay, let's turn to page 52. And grab the cylinder right here. The cylinder begins at 2 3/4, 6.5. Okay, so 2.75, 6.5, enter. It also has a radius of 3/8, and enter. And make sure I'm pulling upward, a height of a 1/2 inch. Okay. The torus, that might be our last primitive. Okay. The torus begins at 4 3/8, 6.5. Okay. 4 3/8, 6.5. That's how I'd type it in. All right, what else does it tell me about the torus? There is a radius of 3/8. Okay. And an inside radius of 1/4 inch. There you go. Looks like a donut, doesn't it? Okay, this is a good place to do a quick save. I'm going to come up here and do a quick save. Okay, now some extruded solids. At the bottom of page 52, it says to type C and enter. That just gets you into the circle command. Okay. And then type 1.25, 5 for the center point, and enter. Type 3/8 for the radius. Okay. On the next page, they want you to do something with this circle. They want you to use the extrude command on it. Select extrude, select the circle, and enter. Type T and enter, or come down here and select taper, either one, taper angle. And then type 15 for your taper angle. And make sure you're dragging upward when you type 1/2 inch. Enter. Okay, there we go. I think I hit the shift key instead of enter. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to draw an extruded rectangle on page 54, it looks like. Nope, halfway down page 53. Sorry, I skipped a paragraph here. Halfway down page 53, you're going to draw an extruded polygon. Where are you, polygon? Right here. Okay. Enter 6 for the number of sides. Center point will be 2.75, comma 5, or 2 3/4, comma 5. Okay. Select circumscribed about the circle. I can select it here or here, down in the command line or up here, either place. And then type 3/8 for the radius. Okay, there it is. For the polygon, instead of using extrude, they want you to be aware of the press pull tool. It's right here. When you use extrude, usually you have to select something by the edge, you know, like we selected the circle by the edge, or if I was using extrude, I would select this by the edge. When you use press pull, you usually just click somewhere in the middle of the area and start pulling up. Okay, and type 3/8. Okay, that's not so bad. So now the extruded rectangle on page 54. Okay. So you're going to select your rectangle, and that's right here. You're going to type 4 1/4, comma 4 1/2 for the starting point. Okay. All right. That's the starting point. Type at 1/4, comma 7/8 for the base. So I need to hold my shift key down to get the at symbol. 1/4, comma 7/8. Okay, that's the base of my rectangle? Okay. The book says you can either use extrude or press pull, whichever one you want to make it a 1/2 inch high. I'm going to do press pull. Press pull, that lets me click somewhere in the middle, pull upward, and type a 1/2 inch. Okay. The next thing is to draw an extruded structural angle. It's best to start this one over here in the top view. So I'm going to click to activate it. Okay. At the bottom of page 54, it says to select the line command and start at 1, comma 3. Line command 1, comma 3. And to go at 7/8, comma 0. Okay, if you don't want to type in all these at symbols and x and y values, you can probably look at those numbers and figure out that you're going to go up 1/4 inch. Yeah, you're going to go up 1/4 inch. To the left 5/8 and up another 5/8 to the left. Okay, let's see what's going on. Well, I'll do the at first. At, what is it? 7/8, comma 0. Okay, that got me this far. Yes, from this far, I can look at the numbers and I can figure out that the long sides are 5/8. The short ends are 1/4, and then I come back oh, the long sides are 7/8. Okay, all right. Okay, so I just went 7/8, and I come up 1/4. I come back 3/4, right? Nope, I come back 5/8. and then I go up 5/8. You can tell that just by looking at the numbers, can't you? Up 5/8. And then you can see that you go over a quarter, and then you do C for close, or you come down here till you see a green symbol and you close. Okay. Kind of messed that up, didn't I? Okay. We need a fillet. Everything's a little bit smaller up here. We have a very small draw panel. And a very small modify panel. Fillet. Okay, let's go down to radius. Click on that. Set the radius to 1/8 of an inch. Enter, 1/8, enter. Let's click multiple so we don't have to keep going back into fillet. And then do 3 radii. One right here, one right here, and one here. Okay. Now at the bottom of page 55, in step 18, it says to use PolyEdit. Okay. I would really like to write the word region there. Most of the time in this textbook, when they want you to turn something into a polyline, I would much rather have you make it into a region. It's a better command when you're working with solids. Region is in your draw panel. It's down here. It looks like this. You know, it has like one corner lobbed off and a hole through the middle. When you select region, not only does it make this shape into a polyline, but it also gives it surface. I'll just click here and here and enter. And over in this side, whoops, on this side you can see that it gave it surface area. On this side, it's just a wireframe because we have it set up here in the corner. Whoops, where are my words? To be wireframe. Okay. This way you don't have to go through all those steps of a PolyEdit command. Just select region, select a couple corners, you know, to select with a window, and there you go. Okay, turn the page and come over to the ISO view, which is on this side. Let's zoom in so you have something you can see. And it's going to be a 1/2 inch high. So, you know, if I select extrude, I have to select the edge and enter and type a 1/2 inch. And whoops, make sure I'm pulling upward. If I did press pull, I would just click in the middle and start pulling upward and type the distance. Okay, let's go back over to this view because you have another outline to draw. Down at the bottom of page 56. Okay. For this outline, they have you pick an approximate location, which is right next to the other outline. So I will need my line command. Click, pull upward and type 7/8. And then 7/8 to the right. Okay, now you have to do some figuring. You know that you're going to go 1/4 of an inch down and 1/4 of an inch to the left. Okay. All right. So you have 1/4 of an inch on the right, and you have 1/4 of an inch section down here too. You know, 1/4 of an inch over, 1/4 of an inch up. Okay. So you come 1/4 of an inch down here and you go 1/4 of an inch up here, and you have to figure out what the rest of this distance is from here to here, from this end to, you know, right up where this 1/4 of an inch begins. So 2/4 of an inch together equal 1/2 or 4/8, right? And if you subtract 4/8 from this side, which is 7/8, you get, I'm waiting, I'm listening, yes, 3/8. Okay, so 3/8 down this way, 3/8, enter, and it would be 3/8 over that way. Okay. Once you have it with these sharp corners like this, you can set the radius of your fillet to 1/4 of an inch. Okay, where are you, fillet again? Fillet, radius, 1/4, and you'll be able to do these two. And then go back and set your fillet radius to 3/8 of an inch, and you can do this one. Okay, now the same thing you did with the angle. I want you to change this into a region. This is where I'm always going to differ with the textbook. Region, it's easy. Draw region. Just select 2 corners of a window. And then enter. And then click over in this ISO view here. Whoops, sorry about that. You can see it has surface. This time I'll do press pull, okay? I just keep flipping back and forth. Click in the middle, pull upward, and type a 1/2 inch. Good time to do a save again. Quick save up here. All right. Now you're going to be using revolve. Okay. Type C and enter for circle. Maybe I should do that over here in this view. C and enter. The center point is 6 1/4, 7 3/4. 6.25, 7.75, enter. It has a 1/2 inch radius. I did grab the radius circle, didn't I? Okay. All right. Now start another circle, and it goes at 6 1/4, 8 1/4, or since you know it goes at the very top of this circle, you could also just say, I'm going to do another circle. Is it a radius circle also? Yeah. I'm going to do another circle, and you could shift and right click and say, I'm going to do it at the top quadrant of this circle. Either way. Okay, what radius does this one have? 1/8, it looks like. Yeah. Okay. Then you're instructed just to use the trim command, trim, and press enter, to trim out these parts so you can get that shape. There you go. Turn to page 58. They want you to use that edit polyline again. Don't do it. Go to the draw panel, get region. Okay. Enter. Okay. By not making it into a polyline, you get to skip all those steps in the blue step 25, okay? You can jump right to step 26, where it says to draw a line and to start it at 6, 6 3/4. Line 6, 6.75. Line starts right there, and pull it straight to the right and type 5/8 for the length. Enter to get out of there. Okay, that line is going to be what you revolve around. So let's go over to the ISO view, find it, here it is, okay. So we can see the revolve. Revolve is up here under extrude. Okay, click on that. Select the edge of the shape and enter. And then you can just enter again. Down here at the command line it says, if you enter again, you're saying, I want to pick an object for the axis. So I'll just enter again. And then I can click my object, which is the axis. It starts revolving right away, doesn't it? And the book says to type in 90 because it's only going to revolve up 90 degrees. 90 and enter. Okay, and then my axis line disappeared, didn't it? Okay. Next you're going to revolve a rectangle. I don't know why. I mean, they already had you do revolve. Move over to the top view again. Rectangle right here has a starting point, 7 3/8, comma 7 3/8. Oh gosh. Okay, that's the starting point. And then at 7/8, comma 7/8. That's a rectangle, all right. What I don't like about this exercise is all these little fractions they make us type in all the time. Okay, top of the next page. The line that's going to be the line to revolve around. Okay, line 7 3/8, comma 6 3/4. Okay, that's the beginning of the line. And drag it straight to the right for 3/4 of an inch. All right. Let's go to the ISO view and select revolve. Okay, over here. Make this view active by clicking in it. Select revolve. Revolve. It's on the top now. Okay, select the rectangle. Enter. Enter so I can select an object. Otherwise I have to select 2 endpoints of an axis, but I can just enter and select the object. Select the line. Whoops, type 90 and enter. Okay. I didn't have to make this one into a region. A rectangle automatically has area. It already has a surface area. Sometimes the revolve doesn't move in the counterclockwise direction like it's supposed to. If this happens to you, then you just type -90 instead of 90. Okay. Okay, a revolved paper clip holder. This one takes a while, okay? Let's turn the page and see what the profile looks like. And let's just come over here to the top view and select some area down here that's just kind of out of the way. We can move it later. We want to draw the profile. There are tiny little dimensions to read on this page. Let's start with the bottom. The bottom is 3/4 of an inch. Okay. And then we can come up 3/16 of an inch. I drew it in the wrong direction. Okay. And come up 3/16 of an inch right here. And I can do the same thing on the other side. I can make this a little bigger for you now. 3/16 of an inch up here. I know that I can come over 1/8 of an inch because I see that dimension. Okay. All right. Okay. And then this line right here comes to a point that's going to be 1/4 inch from the line on the left, so that means you're going to move this line a ½ inch. Okay. Okay, that's the bottom. If you notice, the top is not the same length as the bottom. The top sticks out 1/16th of an inch farther to the left than the bottom. The bottom's 3/4, the top's 13/16. Okay. So let's offset this line up 1 1/8 because the dimension goes from this line right here, okay? That's this one right here. Where's my offset? Modify. Offset. Here we go. Okay. 1 1/8 from here to here. Okay. Did I get it? That's way up there. That's 1 1/8. 1 1/8. It was set at 1 1/8. Okay. All right. That'll be the top. You know it has to come out 1/16th inch longer in this direction. So at a clean command, nothing going on, click on it and pull this grip out and type 1/16. 1/16. It's not much longer, is it? That's just one of the ways. There are a lot of ways you could approach this particular shape. Okay. I'm going to escape to get rid of grips. Okay. Not really sure what I did here. Okay, this is a 6, but it only has to be an 1/8 inch. I only want it to be an 1/8 of an inch long. So, I actually have to drag this one back a 1/16th of an inch, don't I? There we go. Now escape. Okay. That's a 1/16th of an inch, huh? Okay. I'm going up 3/16. All right. I'm going to offset that over a ½ inch, or draw a ½ inch and come down 3/16, right? Ooh, that was the wrong direction. I can always right click and undo that. Okay, pull straight. Okay. Down 3/16. All right. Ah, good. From there, I can just connect to this right here. Okay, that's one good part. Okay, tracking up from this corner, I just need a line. You know, it's just going to be my line that I revolve around. So, okay. Now, we need to make a special arc. It's up here at the top in my little draw panel. Click the little triangle, and you know that the start point and the end point are here and here. And we know the radius of the arc. It says it's 1 3/4. So right here, let's do start end radius. Where is that? Start end radius. Make sure you're moving counterclockwise. Excuse me, counterclockwise. So that means you would start here at the top and end here at the bottom. Be sure to drag your mouse until you see a curve, till a curve shows up. when you see that nice curve like that, you can type in the radius, 1.75. Okay, then the only thing are these little teeny fillets, fillets of 1/16 of an inch. Okay, fillet, radius 1/16, enter, and those are right here. Fillet, and right here at the top. Okay, this thing is almost ready to roll. You want to make it into a, guess what? A region. You want to make it into a region, but you don't want to select this line. So do a window right here. Wait, let me get region first. Do a window right here. Oh, that was a blue one, wasn't it? Let me do a green one. It'll get more stuff. And do another window to catch this end before you press enter. Enter. As long as it says right down here, one region created, you are in business. Okay. Revolve. Select the item. Enter. Enter again, just to select the object option. Select the line. I got out of my command somehow. Let me try that again. Revolve. Select this and enter. Enter to select object. Select the line. There we go. Now it's asking me how many degrees. It already says 360 in the command line, so I can just press enter and accept it. There is your paper clip holder. Let's go over to the isometric view over here and stand it up. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so it's laying on its side. AutoCAD has given us a very nice tool for rotating solids. Just a few releases ago. Up here in the Modify tools, right here, you have a 3D rotate, and it works pretty slick. Select 3D rotate. Let me just grab an edge of the paper clip holder and enter. As soon as you enter, this little symbol shows up right here with all these little ribbons. You want your rotation point to be at the center point of the bottom of the paper clip holder. So usually if you get near the bottom edge, the center point shows up and you can click, and that moved this symbol. I know it's kind of hard to see because this got all highlighted, but that moves the symbol to the center. Now you just pick the ribbon that's going to rotate it in the direction that you want. In this case, it's going to be the red ribbon, right? Let me just zoom in there a little bit. So I'm going to click, whoop, there, on the red ribbon. Okay. And I'm going to type 90 and enter, and that stands it up for us. Okay. And then put ortho on before you move it. Actually come down here and turn ortho on before you move it. Otherwise, when you move it, it might actually move at an angle so that it's going down in the Z direction also. So go back to page 47. See where the location should be. Okay, kind of right in front of that rotated rectangle. Okay, see where the location should be. And then select Move. Where are you? Move. Select the object and enter. You can just grab a base point on the object and move it back like that. Okay, that's good. Sometimes I have to do another move to move it over a little bit, depending on where I drew it in this area. Okay. Let's click Save. Lots going on here, right? Okay, next, using chamfer and fillet on solids. Okay. If your UCS symbol, see like mine here, ends up someplace it's not supposed to be, type UCS and enter twice. UCS, enter, enter. There. That gets it back where it belonged, down here in the corner. On page 61, it says use the box to draw two of them that are 1 1/4 by 3/4 by 1/2 inch. They don't give you step-by-step instructions. They figure by now you can draw a box. So in the approximate location shown, you can go back to page 47 and look. See what that location is. It's kind of to the right of these two outline figures right here. Okay, let me check 47. Oh yeah, I see where it is. So it lines up along here. Okay. Box. Click for a starting point. Remember, you're going to need an @ symbol. So at 1 1/4 by 3/4, at 1.25, comma 0.75. Okay. And make sure you're pulling upward when you type a 1/2 inch. Okay. And then if you want, you can select copy, because we're going to need two of these. Copy. Select the box and enter. Just grab it at a base point and we'll just have another one right in front of it. You're going to do a chamfer on one of them and a fillet on the other one. The chamfer is more difficult. The fillet works pretty slick. Okay. Whoops, it's still copying. Okay. Chamfer right here by fillet. You are instructed to type D and enter or select distance from the command line. Okay. 3/16 is your distance. Okay, 3/16 and enter. And then enter again for the second distance. And then on the illustration at the bottom of the page, and somehow your little arrows, sometimes they get moved over a little tiny bit, but at the top of the page, I'm sorry, illustration at the top of the page, and the little arrows did get moved over a little bit because it looks like the arrows are pointing toward surfaces, and they're not. They're pointing toward edges. So P1 is in reference to this back edge right here. Okay. P1 is in reference to this back edge. Pick it. Okay, the top didn't highlight. Actually, you might be able to see it's the back of the box that highlighted. So go ahead and select next. Okay, once the top highlights, jump to the bottom and enter 3 times. This sounds like magic, you know, turn around 3 times and then, okay, enter 3 times. Enter, enter, enter. It's telling you what's going to say over there in the command line. You entered for your surface selection option, you entered for specify base surface, and for specify other surface. Now, pick all 4 of these top edges. The one you just picked, this one, even though it looks like nothing's happening, and this one, and press enter. You have your fillet. You might have to watch this a couple times. I tell you, fillets just mess people up, okay? Let's turn the page and do the, or chamfers. Chamfers mess people up. We'll turn the page and do the fillet. The fillet will be fine. Works a lot easier. Okay, select fillet. Okay. Select P5. Well, then I got to turn back a page and see which edge was P5. Okay, this one back here. Okay, select P5. Okay, then it's calling for the radius, 3/16, and enter. And then pick the other three edges. Okay, was there any special order they wanted them in? 6 is here. 6, 7, 8, and enter. Okay, works a lot nicer than the chamfer. Okay, now you're instructed to make 2 cylinders with a radius of 3/8 and a height of 3/4. Let's go back to page 47 and see where the cylinders go. Oh, they go in front of those boxes. Okay. Cylinders. With a radius of 3/8 and a height of 3/4. So is that it? All right. And then we'll just copy it, this one. All right. Okay. And enter so I can stop copying. One cylinder gets a chamfer of 1/16 inch and the other cylinder gets a radius of 1/16. Okay, chamfer, the hard one. Click distance down here, type 1/16 and enter. Enter again for the second distance. Pick the edge. I don't have to pick next because the top highlights. Of course, the bottom highlighted too. Do the 3 enters. Pick this edge again and enter. It didn't work. Okay. I don't think I got it. Okay, let's go through that again. Chamfer. Distance. 1/16. So I'll enter. I'll enter for the second distance. Pick the edge. Oh, there I just got one edge that time. That might be better. Now I do the 3 enters and pick the edge again. Yeah, it's gonna work, I think, this time. Okay. Somehow I might have picked this surface, and that might be why I got blue lines at the top and bottom the last time. So I'm kind of glad the mistake happened, because if it happens to you, then I just had to be a lot more careful about picking the edge. Okay, fillet. That one will be fine. Okay, fillet. Pick the edge of the cylinder. Type 1/16 and enter, and pick the edge again. I like that one. Okay. Now we're going to make the part you see on page 63. This is the one where you're going to end up using the Boolean editing commands of union and subtract. On page 62, it says to type UCS and enter twice. That's just to make sure the UCS is in the correct location. Okay. So I will UCS enter twice. Okay, it is. If the UCS ever gives me trouble, I come down here to the hamburger and I see if dynamic UCS is turned on, and then I look down here and I say, oh yes, it is turned on. I might not want it turned on. Okay. All right. Start the box. Okay, box. I can get that. A box I can make, right? at 4.5, comma 3/4. Okay. 4.5? Yeah, 4.5. There we go. Okay. And then at 1, comma 1. Okay, there's the box. Oh, and how high is it going to be? Make sure you're pulling upward when you type 0.25. All right. We can zoom in on that now that we know where it's going to be. If it interferes with the cylinders, you might have to move the cylinders out of the way. Okay. Oops, that's not exactly what I wanted. Move. It won't pick the whole cylinder over there. Okay, let me just move this one then. Move, select objects, enter. Base point. Enter. Specify a base point and move the thing back a little bit. That's all I'm trying to do. Okay. They want you to put a cylinder in the middle of the bottom of the box. Okay. So that means it would be best to come up here to your visual styles and change it temporarily to 2D wireframe so you can see what you're doing. Okay. Okay. This is the step on 63 where they want you to type, cylinder, decimal X, and snap the midpoint of the front and the midpoint of the side and stuff. This will not work if dynamic input is turned on. So that means that you're going to have to come over here to the hamburger. You're going to have to click dynamic UCS. I said dynamic input, but I meant dynamic UCS. You're going to have to click dynamic UCS. And then down here, right here in your status bar, you're going to have to make sure it's turned off. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. Okay. The default is that it's turned on and it's running in the background, and for this, we need it off. It can be handy, but not for this command. Okay. Now, cylinder. And right away, we're going to type decimal X and enter. Now, shift and right click and get the midpoint of the front. And shift and right click and get the midpoint of the left bottom edge. And now the cylinder has started in the center of the bottom. Okay, only works if dynamic UCS is turned on. Gets a radius of 1/8, and it says pull it up to be a 1/2 inch length. Okay, 0.5. If you have a whole lot of trouble using that decimal X method, you could always draw a line, from here, kitty corner to here, kitty corner, and you could start your cylinder at the midpoint of that line, but you'd have to erase the line later. Okay. At the bottom, you have to do some things. Now, at the bottom of the page, where it's saying draw shape 2, you have to do some things with the UCS. Okay. First, type UCS and enter. From all of the different options, select X. I'm just going to click on X right here, okay? Okay. And then enter for 90 because we want it to be 90. Okay. The Y-axis now goes up in this direction where Z used to go. Okay. Now it says type UCS again and enter. Okay, this is where it looks like you're supposed to type 0, but that's not a 0. It's the letter O. It stands for origin. So type the letter O and enter, and then pick this back top corner. Okay, so you should have X going along this line, Z going along this line, and Y going up. So, you know, towards the bottom of page 63 where it says type O and enter, that's the letter O, not a 0. Okay, let's turn the page. Select a polyline. Okay. Okay, that would be right here in the draw panel, very first one. Type 0, 0 to start at the origin. Make sure you have ortho turned on. Oh, good, it is. Okay. So it says to drag to the right and type 1. Drag straight up. I wish that cylinder wasn't behind it. It makes it hard for you to see. But drag straight up and type 3/4. And then this is kind of cool. While you're right in the middle of the polyline command, you can go back and forth between the arc and line mode without even leaving the command. So just come down here and click arc in the command line. Now drag to the left. I want you to be able to see what's happening here. There, drag to the left and type 1. And then they have you type CL for close. CL makes it close with a line. So CL is like close and go back to the line mode. Okay. So here's your polyline right here. Okay. And you want to extrude it. Be sure you pull it forward in the positive Z direction. Okay. So extrude, enter, pulling forward in the positive Z direction, and type 0.25. All right. While your UCS is still in this crazy orientation right here, you're going to put a cylinder. And the cylinder has to go to the center back, so you're going to get near this back arc when you place it. Cylinder, get near the back arc. Okay, no, back arc. Ugh. Oh, brother. Everything's showing up except what I want to show up. The end point of the line is showing up. Oh. Is that it right there? I think it is. Okay, I'll do cylinder. I'll shift and right click and say center point. So that's the only thing that's going to show up is center points. Good. Okay, so I'm near the back arc and I can see the green center point. That's what I want to click on. Okay, this cylinder gets a radius of what? I lost my spot in the book. Quarter inch. Sorry about that. Gets a radius of a 1/4 inch, and it has to come out in the positive Z direction 1/2 inch. Did a lot of thinking there, didn't I? Okay. Now you're going to do union and subtract right up here. Okay. Union. Okay. Union. And you're going to pick the back and the bottom and press enter, and they're unioned together. Now let's go back to that conceptual visual style. Up here's my visual styles. Okay, click on 2D wireframe, conceptual. Okay, it's going to be a lot easier to do my subtract. So the back and the bottom are unioned. They're all one piece. When you select subtract, you're always going to select what you're subtracting from first. So click this and enter. And then select this cylinder and this cylinder and enter, and there's your shape. Okay? Okay, we want the UCS to go back to normal, so we're going to type UCS and enter twice. Okay. Whew. Now you're going to be using the sweep command. Okay. So over in the top view, clicking over here, next to the piece that we just drew, draw just a plain old 3-point arc. Okay. Okay, I see that. Just a plain old arc. 3 points. Like, we could make that a little bigger, can't we? Like this. 3 points. Well, mine's bigger than theirs. It'll be okay. Draw a circle with an 1/8-inch radius. Okay, circle with an 1/8-inch radius. And then draw a rectangle, and each side has to be 3/8. So do at 3/8, comma 3/8. Okay, after you pick the starting point. I don't really like my arc, so I'm going to erase it. Let's try that arc again. Oh, I know what's happening. Ortho's on, and it's always making me pick a spot that's right above it. See, I want it to be kind of shallow like this. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, I want to let you know right away, we want to do a sweep with this, and the directions in the textbook won't work. They have you sweep one shape along the arc and then sweep another shape along the arc. You can't sweep them separately. After you sweep the first one, the path disappears. The arc will disappear. So a few releases ago, AutoCAD decided, once you sweep something along a path, it's going to just disappear. So you have to sweep the circle and rectangle at the same time. And you can do that. Just draw this little line right here. Okay. Move your circle. Get the center point of the circle. Shift and right click, put it on the midpoint of the line. Good. And then just erase the line you drew. All right. Remember, you're going to pick them both. Okay. So we're going to do the sweep. Sweep is right up here. Okay, it says select the objects to sweep. I'm going to do that with a window so I get them both. And enter. And then it says pick the path. And I will. And there it is. Okay? You can see over here. Whoops. All right. Okay, so, but I had to sweep them both at the same time, the rectangle and the circle. Then I can select subtract. Where are you, subtract? Click on the edge of the square because that's what I'm subtracting from, and enter. And zoom in here and make sure that the circle highlights when I select what to subtract, and enter. And now there's a hole going through the middle of this arc. Okay. Page 66, blue, step 55. Okay. Moving right along in this long demonstration. Blue, step 55. We're going to draw a helix. Okay. Go to the top view again. And start the helix. And also kind of adjust the ISO view over here. We'll make it small so you can see what's happening. Okay. Now top view again. Where do they want that helix to be? Kind of out here in this area. Okay, so let's find the helix. There's a helix tool now in AutoCAD. The helix command is in those extra draw tools. Ah, looks like that. Okay. So click the starting point in the approximate location. You can go back and look, at page 47 again. This is approximate. Let's type a ½ inch for the radius. And then just do another enter. So you can you'll have a ½ inch radius at the top. Then click on turns right here and type 6 and enter. And the height is going to be, oh, you can see it kind of pulling upward on the other side. The height is 1.25. And enter. And your helix is done. Okay, it just looks like a circle over here. But over on this side, I'd almost like to move it away from that thing a little bit. Just so we can see what's going on. Let's move it out just a smidge. Okay. Step 56 says to draw 2 circles. Circle, click. It's going to have a radius of 1/16. All right, that's little. Let's get in there. And the other one's going to start at the center of that circle and have a radius of 1/32. Okay, and we're going to sweep those both at the same time too. So sweep, where are you? Sweep, pick both circles with a window and enter. Pick the helix. It's going to take a minute. AutoCAD has to do some calculations on this one, so it's not instant. Okay. Now, I'm trying to get somewhere, and I may have to rotate or turn this around or something. I really need to get somewhere where I can see the ends, because I have to do a subtract. I do have a little rotate tool right here, orbit. Okay, let me tip it up a little bit. And then when I'm done, I'll just go back to southeast isometric, okay? That tool was right here. Okay. And I'm going to escape out of that now. Okay. So I have to do a subtract. Subtract. Pick the edge of the outside circle, because that's what I'm subtracting from, and enter. And then what I'm going to subtract is the inside circle, so pick that and enter. And lots of calculations to do, because it's taken a minute now, isn't it? Whew! Okay. And you have a garden hose. Okay. And I said I would go back to southeast isometric, right, from custom view. Okay. I'm going to click save again because I don't want to lose any of this stuff. Okay. This is a long demo. Okay. Page 68, lofts. We are learning everything about 3D modeling by doing all these little shapes. Draw 3 circles. They want you to do the lofts over here. I'm going to come to this view. They want you to do it over in this area, under this angle. Okay. Draw 3 circles. Half-inch radius. 3/8 inch radius, concentric circles, so they'll start in the center of that one. 3/8 inch radius, and a 1/4 inch radius. All right, then what? Let's adjust the view now so we can see what's happening. Okay, so I'm going to make this a little bigger over here so you can kind of see what's happening. Okay, now I'm back on the top view. AutoCAD is giving you instructions for a way to move these circles in the upward Z direction, so they're not going to drag across the screen and just look like they're moving upward. They're actually going to move in the Z direction. So select Move, and I guess I can do it over here. Select Move, but I can't just pull this up. It actually might be pulling sideways. So select Move and select the smaller circle and enter. Select the center as the base point. And you see on your page where it says type at 0, 0, 0.25. At 0, 0, 0.25. That means you're going at, which is from the last point picked, 0 in the X direction, 0 in the Y direction, a 1/4 inch in the positive Z direction. That forces the move in the Z direction. So in the top view, still looks like it's flat on the ground, but in the ISO view, you can see it's been moved up. The 3/8 inch circle is the next one in, and it's going to get moved up a 1/2 inch. Okay, so move, select it, enter, select the center point as the base, at 0, 0, 1/2 inch. All right. Now you're ready to do the loft. Loft is cool and very easy. You want to be in the ISO view, select loft, it's right here. And if you pick one of these on the left side, then make sure you pick them all on the left side. Otherwise, you just have to pick them all on the same size or else they'll twist. Click, click, and click. And with the loft, you have to enter twice. 1, 2 enters. Okay, that's your first loft. Let's come over to the top view again and do the second loft, which is 3 more circles. They want to show you what's going to happen if you pick the bottom circle, the top circle, and then the middle circle. First circle has a radius of 3/4. Oh, that's a little bigger, isn't it? Okay, maybe I should move that a smidge. Ortho's on, so I got to move it twice. Once down and once over. Okay. The next circle has a radius of 5/8. Hey, circle. Starting point. 5/8. And the last one is a 1/2 inch. There it is. All right. I'm going to move to this side. All right. On the next page, it says move the 1/2 inch circle. That was the smallest one. And it's going up 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Move the 1/2 inch. Grab a base point at 0, 0, 1/8, enter. Okay, that's all higher, it went up. Okay. Move the 5/8 inch circle a 1/2 inch up. Okay. That's this one, isn't it? Move. Okay. Select it. Enter. Grab a base point, which is the center, and type at 0, 0, 0.5. All right, Now, here in the ISO view, with the loft command, select the bottom circle, the top circle, and then the middle circle. Is it going to let me? Yes. And enter twice, and you have a dog dish for Fido. Okay. The planar surface just ends up making a bar. Okay, so let's see here. Where do they put the plane surf? Oh, it goes right here in front of these things, right there, doesn't it? Oh, and they give me a location for it or not? Nope, pick the lower left corner in the approximate location. Okay. You can just type plane surf, P-L-A-N-E-S-U-R-F, and enter. Okay. So pick a location here in front of the lofts, and then type at 3, 1/2, and enter. And it makes it pretty long, doesn't it? It might start in a spot where I have to end up moving it when it's done. Okay. Then type thicken. Oh, because it's done? Okay. So then type thicken and enter. T-H-I-C-K. Oh, I'm not. I-C-K-E-N. And enter. Then type thicken and enter. And click the surface and enter. And type 1/8. That's your planar surface. I would much rather use extrude or press pull. I might have to move mine back a little ways here. Okay, that's the planar surface. I'm not impressed. Okay, the polysolid. Let's go to page 70. Oh boy, we're down to 2 shapes, but I got to tell you, the last one is a doozy. Polysolid. Are you still with me, folks? Okay. Check page 47. Looks like the polysolid is over here in this area right here. Okay, they're going to give me starting points. Not sure. Let's find out. Usually ends up being in the way of some of these figures, and then I have to move it. You have a polysolid button. It's up here next to the solid modifying commands. That's it right there. Cool. Okay. It says to first select the height option. Okay, that's down here. And type a 1/2 inch and enter. And then pick the width option and type a 1/4 inch and enter. Oh, this is tough. And then it begins at 8.5, 4. Okay, yeah, it is asking for the starting point now. Okay, so 8.5. Oops, back up. 8.5, 4, right? 8.5, 4. Okay. Sometimes it goes right through my helix. This time it looks like it's not going to. And then I have to move the helix when I'm done. Okay, it says to make sure you have ortho on. Yes, I do. Ortho is on. Move your mouse down and type 3 and enter. Okay. Then select the arc option. Move your mouse to the left. Oh, that's this way. Yuck. Move your mouse to the left and type 1/2 and enter. Move your mouse back up. Whoops. Whoa, 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 whoa. I got to get the line option first. I've been in arc. I got to get back to line. Okay. Move your mouse back up and type 3 and enter. Then type C for close. That's your polysolid. Okay, let's do another save. Okay. All right. We're on the last shape. It's on page 71. Move over to the top view. You're going to need a ton of room. Okay. Lots and lots of room. Because these are all little teeny parts. They were like 1 inch or 1/2 inch. Now you have to draw a line that's 2 feet long. Okay. Okay. Line. Starting point 2 feet. Enter and enter. Okay, now I have an idea of how much space I'm going to need. Remember, you need the foot sign. If AutoCAD doesn't let you roll the mouse back far enough, draw the line first, type 2 feet and enter, then you'll be able to zoom out. Okay. Now looking at the dimensions on the bottom of the page, there is a dimension of 5.5 inches on the right side and 2 dimensions on the left side. 1.5 inches and 3. So that would add up to 4.5 inches, and when you subtract that from 5.5 inches, it equals 1 inch. So the first thing I'm going to do is come down 1 inch. Okay? One. Now I have dimensions after that, right? Move to, well, if I want to match the text, I have to actually do the other side. Let's just erase that one, because it says move to the left 2 inches, and I would have had to move to the right 2 inches from there. Okay, so come down 1 inch, move to the left 2 inches. Now, how far down do I go? Down 1.5 inches, to the left 1/2 inch, down 3 inches. I could repeat these same lines on the other side, or I could mirror. 2D mirror is hiding here in your extra modify commands. Mirror, select these lines with the blue selection window, enter. Shift and right click to get the midpoint of the top line. Click here in some point below it. And then just draw the bottom line in. Okay. Come on, line. Oh. Oh, shoot. I forgot the extra enter for the mirror. Okay, here we go again. Mirror. Shift and right click. Click and then enter to finish the mirror command. I forgot that. Okay, now a line across the bottom. Okay. All right. So, my shape is there. It's kind of all squared in. This is actually my favorite piece of all the pieces. I love using the intersect command up here. It's all squared in, so it needs some fillets. Let's get our fillet. Give it a radius down here of 1. Okay. And enter. May as well select multiple. There's going to be a few of them. Okay. So this is where my radius goes, from here to here, and then from here to here. Nice shape, right? Same on this side, here to here, and from here to here. Okay. Very nice looking shape. Okay, now the text is starting to talk about polyedit again. So you know I want you to use region. Okay. Draw, region. Select the whole thing with a window. Press enter. It should say 1 region created. It does down here. I'm going to go over to the ISO view. Find this thing. There it is. And I'm going to copy because I need 2 of these. So copy. Here's one. And we'll grab a base point and copy it right there. Okay, and enter. I'm done copying. Okay, we want to stand them up. So we're going to use that 3D rotate again, right here. Click the item and enter. Park your ribbon on this corner. Select the red ribbon and do 90 and enter. Let's stand the other one up. Click the item and enter. Park it on this corner. Type 90 and enter. Hey, where's my 90? 90, enter. Oh, apparently it says I haven't picked the corner yet. You know, I'm just going to escape, start it over again. Okay, enter once. There, I sure clicked on that corner that time. I don't think I picked a ribbon was my... Yeah, that's what I didn't do last time. I didn't pick a ribbon. Okay, I want to swing one of these around. Okay, maybe this one. Okay, so going to select this again. I'm going to select my object. I'm going to put it on that same corner, but this time I want to swing it like a door, so I'm going to select the blue ribbon and type 90 and enter. Good, that's just what I want. Okay, zoom in now so that you can see what's going to happen. Because I'm going to move these and I want this corner to touch that corner. Okay, move, select this object and enter. With O snaps, I want this corner to touch that corner. Okay. Oh, we're almost done. I'm so excited. Now you get to see what the intersect command does. Okay. So this is how intersect works. I'm waiting for the little thumbnail to come up. Let's try that again. There's the little thumbnail. Okay, so what they did is they drew the outline of that green form. They drew it flat, okay. And then they drew the side outline, the S shape of the gray form, and they extruded the green form, and then they extruded the gray form through it. And when you use intersect, it just keeps the volume that's shared by both extrusions. Blech. Okay, so over here we have to extrude both of these. Let's find extrude up here. I'm going to extrude this one, click and enter, and I'm just going to pull it way far in this direction, farther than it has to go. Okay, I want to make sure I extrude it past that shape. And then I'm going to extrude the other one. Click it and enter and pull it past that. So they actually cross each other, don't they? Now intersect. Okay, right there. Select this one and press enter, and there it is. It's really nice. It's a cornice that you'll be using later. When you model the patio, this cornice will go on the top of the columns. That's why we needed to model the cornice life size, but for right now you're going to make it tiny like the rest of them. And I just want to show you with the orbit, you know, how nice the cornice looks here. That's a pretty nice looking piece, isn't it? Okay, let me get out of the orbit and go back to the southeast isometric. Okay. So for now we're going to make it small. That means step 71, it says you're going to scale it 1/12 of its size. We'll just scale it back up by 12 when we bring it into the patio. Okay. So scale, where are you scale? Right here in the modify panel. Okay, pick the object, press enter, pick the bottom corner as a base point, and type 1/12 for 1/12, 1/12, enter. It's little now. Okay, now you have a little one. Make sure ortho is on when you move it. You'll have to do it in 2 moves. Otherwise, it might dip down in the Z direction. So move, select it and enter, grab a base point and pull back about like that, and then move, select it and enter and grab a base point and pull it up by this stuff. Okay. Kind of tacking it like a sailboat. Okay, so try and have all your items just about where they're shown on page 47. Most of them give you a starting point, but some of them say to find the approximate location. So then you have to look back on page 47. Type UCS and enter twice. Yeah. Okay, so the UCS is in the right place. Have your ISO view as your active viewport. And then type viewports and enter and go back to a single viewport. So only the ISO view now will be on your page. Makes it a little bigger, a little easier to see. Make sure it's southeast isometric right here and conceptual right here as your visual style. This is where I would like you to do your final save. This is how I want it to look when you turn it in. So final save. Whew, that was a long one, wasn't it? Okay, folks, good luck.